Hello everyone, LJ here. Now, it's no secret that Thomas has gone down the toilet in terms of quality, but you already know that. And I don't care. And neither should you. Go watch another show with a talking train or vehicle, you narrow-minded swine. Because there's more to life than Tommy the Tank Spank. So to enlighten you all about this, I decided to present you all a short-lived series made back in the 2000s, in 2006, around the same year as Pixar launches its new milking machine, while Sonic the Hedgehog goes on yet another downward spiral.
It's no use!
What the fuck is wrong with you, seriously?
And yes, it's one of the mills early 2000s CGI shows with visuals either impressive for their time, aged poorly, or just downright terrifying. Underground Ernie. Underground Ernie is a British CGI series created by John Deary and Sid Rainey, and developed by 3D Films and L.J.Productions based in London, and surprisingly founded by John and Sid themselves, which sounds impressive, but it does bring up a problem that I will bring up later on. The series focuses on the fictional railway called the International Underground, which is based off of the real-life London Underground, along with several of its real-life likenesses here and there. The railway is run by the Tower character Ernie, played by the Gary Lineker, who some of you may know and recognise for previously being a former professional footballer, until he moved on being a sports broadcast presenter and also being in a handful of Walker's adverts.
You can't beat Walker's.
They can still put their empty packets in the bin.
The other supporting characters consist of the railway staff, Millie and Mr.Rails, and the trains, and surprisingly enough named after the railway lines from the London Underground: Victoria, Bakerloo, Hammersmith, City, Jubilee and Circle, following back to what I said earlier about being based off of the real-life likeness of the London Underground. With that said, you're probably wondering to yourself, LJ, why is it based off a underground railway? They're just long tubes. Looks boring. But that's where you're both right and wrong, as yes, it does have underground railway network, but half of the locations in the show are above ground, which kinda defeats the purpose. But nonetheless, the locations in the series have a very impressive variety, from a sports stadium, a nature reserve, a medieval castle, a seaside station, a shopping mall, and so on and so forth, so it's pretty much a holidaymaker's paradise. Well, as you've seen by the footage playing in the background, so it's technically time for me to bring up the elephant in the room. And it's the CGI animation in the show, and how the trains are so-called creepy due to their physical appearance along with the human characters, but I'm just gonna say this now, they're not that bad in terms of character models, design, visuals, and so on. And in terms of ranking the CGI, I'd rank it higher than the likeness of Food Fight, original I know, and rank it in a similar ballpark as Jimmy Neutron, but slightly lower. And going back to what I said earlier, with the series being developed by 3D Films and L.J.Productions, with 3D Films providing the animation for the series, and the animation itself for the series is pretty decent for 2006. The character animation themselves are smooth, well paced along with camera pans, the trains moving around, the lighting, and so on.
Stop the nonsense. The very idea.
However, whilst doing some digging to see what else 3D Films has done, nothing else from what I can find. So that either means 3D Films closed down after the series ended, or they possibly merged with another company, but nonetheless I couldn't find anything else. Except for Brian Mitchell, who was the director for the series, and before working on Ernie, previously worked on Babe in the Pig City as casting director, and assisting director on Happy Feet 2. Oh dear. While I was doing some more digging, I found some more information about the series' development from a man called Adam Bavin, who was the creative director for the series, and according to him there was a strained relationship between both 3D Films and L.J.Productions, which could mean that something went down behind closed doors and a few things did happen, with the production budget costing £4 million, with development starting in October 2001 and finished in December 2003. Hello everyone, LJ here. This is just a last minute thing. I've completely overlooked this when I was writing both the script and recording the original audio for it, and by the time of this recording I'm still editing it. I'm just adding music onto it. And the one thing that I've overlooked was the year gap, because obviously the production started in October 2001 and ended its production in December 2003, which obviously, and what obviously makes no sense is obviously the series came out in 2006. Basically, the BBC wanted to broadcast the series in 2005, but it was delayed due to the July 7th bombings of that year, which included the attack on the Underground, which, yeah, a bit of a oh dear kind of moment. So, smart move on the BBC, but, you know, the BBC's the BBC. So, yeah, production started 2001, ended 2003. Probably 2004 was like showing what to change, what not. Planned broadcast 2005, but they also pushed it back due to the bombings. And the show coming out in 2006. Yeah, basically I just forgot to mention the series was planned to come out in 2005, but was delayed due to the bombings of the London Underground. So sorry for wasting your time, and obviously back to the regularly scheduled programme. Along with a planned Series 2 that was canned with over 56 episodes to accompany the season, that sounds like an overkill compared to the first season containing 26 episodes. And the only character renders of Circle, Victoria and Hammersmith shows how far the production on Series 2 was until it was sadly canned. And to be honest, I wonder if Series 2 would be any good. But are any of the existing episodes any good? And they are surprisingly not bad, as the writing for these episodes are very well structured, and having a good beginning and a good end, character interactions within these episodes, and so on. So let's go over some of the episodes in the series. And just as a heads up, I won't be covering all the episodes, but mostly going over the first 3 episodes. Because I want you all to experience it for yourselves. Well, there's nowhere else to go other than starting off with the first episode. In the episode Pop Decoy, the famous pop singer Sam 7 is the talk of the town at the Underground Railway, and he's playing at the theatre later tonight, with his current whereabouts being a secret, with the exception of Ernie, Millie, Jubilee and the rest of the Underground trains and staff, until Jubilee accidentally spills the beans while having a conversation with the Underground entertainer, and the fans go wild like Smash fans when Gino gets in. Which is never. Luckily, Ernie has a plan by having the Underground entertainer dressed and disguised as Sam 7 and vice versa. Luckily, their plan worked out, Jubilee apologises for his actions, and all is forgiven from Ernie, and Sam 7 himself forgives him. Yeah, the famous pop singer that almost got his secret whereabouts, possibly his concert being wrecked by Jubilee for accidentally spilling the beans, forgave him. What a Chad move right there. Move over, modern day nobody singers that get their songs played on loop 24/7 that sound like crap. Sam 7 is gonna smack you into next week with his songs. Also, the main song by him that's heard throughout the episode slaps. It just slaps. Oh. You can tell from the first episode alone how downright confident they were, but less can be said about the person that wrote this episode that would later on write this.
Straight into the 6 trucks Thomas and James had shunted. Toby felt terrible.
Oh no! This is a disaster!
Like, what happened? What went wrong? Oh wow. Sharon Miller era bad. How original, LJ. I'm sure they'll get a kick out of that. Well, at least I'm not stuck in 2008 and still think Will and Joey's stuff are still funny. Ouch. In the episode Sir Clunkalot, a medieval pageant is being held at Mystery Mansion, which is a medieval castle that's located on Bakerloo's line. And Bakerloo himself is worried that the ghost of Mystery Mansion, called Sir Clunkalot, is haunting the place.
Sir Clunkalot won't be pleased about that.
Who's Sir Clunkalot?
A knight. He used to own Mystery Mansion, and now his ghost haunts the station.
Ooh.
Stop the nonsense, Bakerloo. There'll be no ghosts at the medieval pageant.
And if you ask me, Sir Clunkalot sounds downright dirty saying out loud. Does he have a friend called Sir Spankalot? But Alice, the owner of Mystery Mansion, is in a bit of a pickle of her own due to the medieval pageant not having enough medieval decorations, props and costumes and so forth at their medieval pageant. A bit backwards there, don't you think, Missy? But luckily Ernie has an idea and suggests that the theatre might have some props for the medieval pageant. During this, Ernie discovers a suit of armour and puts it on to try, but accidentally gets stuck in the suit of armour, and Bakerloo mistakes him for the haunted spirit himself, Sir Clunkalot, to the point that even Alice and Mr.Rails, the best character in the series, more on that later, believes Bakerloo until all is realised that it was just Ernie all along and the medieval pageant was a success, and Bakerloo learns not to be too sceptical and jump to conclusions, which is a running theme with his character if you watch the series time and time again.
Imagine Bakerloo thinking Ernie was a ghost.
Don't be silly, Jubilee. I knew it was Ernie all along.
Great beginning and end, very humorous in some places, and Mr. Rails in his dragon costume is pretty funny, as it looks more like a dinosaur than a dragon. And his face on this one promo says it all. Speak of the devil. Now then, before we dive into the last episode that I'm going to talk about in this video, Mr. Rails Never Fails, let's talk about the character Mr. Rails. What can you say about Mr. Rails? Well, just anything really, being the International Underground Railways mechanic and maintenance man to both rails and the trains, and is seen doing his jobs in sometimes dangerous places, and it makes you wonder, how much does he get paid for what he's given at this job?
Twist.
Careful, Mr. Rails.
I might do that again.
May look fun to some, but bear in mind, this is an old man. And even in one episode it states that he finally wants to retire, but, you know, we wouldn't have a show then, would we? Anyways, enough rambling about Mr. Rails as a character and how much of a entertaining individual he is in some places, with obviously some snazzy highlights. Let's properly dive in and wrap this up. The railway is preparing themselves for a surprise party for Mr. Rails, celebrating his 25th anniversary for working on the Underground. But things don't go according to plan, as Ernie catches a cold, but luckily not the C word, as he needs to be at the party later on in the evening to do his presentation. But luckily Millie insists that he should rest for tonight and she can manage everything as Mr. Rails is distracted by repairing his multi-tooled maintenance machine. Bit of a mouthful there guys, but I digress. Unfortunately, as Millie takes over for Ernie, things don't go according to plan. While that's happening, Mr. Rails is trying to repair his maintenance machine, but with no luck, to the point where he's had enough and tells Millie that he's going home before she tells him that something needs doing at the sheds. Luckily he agrees to come over and Millie has gotten everything sorted out and picks up some medicine for Ernie and he gets better. Mr. Rails finally fixes his maintenance machine and they all had a grand old time at the party.
hours.
Now this is the one thing I forgot to mention in the previous two talkings of the episodes that I've chosen. Well, not really, but you know. Every episode ends with the trains discussing about today's events, and they talk about how much Mr. Rails really needs them, and so on and so forth. This episode is really good and shows that they all need each other in some way, shape or form to keep the Underground running, and to show how important of a character Mr. Rails is to some sense. And all their work on the Underground is like a link in the chain. And as the episode itself says, Mr. Rails never fails. It's just one of those rough in the diamonds, and just a load of people aren't giving it a chance. If everyone can give Chuggington a chance a few years later and act downright smug by saying it's superior to Thomas now due to the show dipping in quality by the second, then why can't Underground Ernie get the same current treatment like Chuggington? Heck, this show even shares the same writers as Thomas during the early hit era, Bob the Builder, and of course, Chuggington. So I don't get the flack. Oh well, who am I kidding? They're missing out. And I can't do or say anything about it, and I personally see Underground Ernie in the same ballpark as Ivor the Engine, as both came and went, but sadly never got the full exposure in the similar likeness to Thomas and Chuggington. But technically Ivor does get its exposure here and there, but not by a full mile. My god, how many times are you going to bring up Chuggington and slander it, LJ? Well, you see, the best way I can summarize Chuggington is, well... Roland, help me out here.
Stinky!
You what?
I'm very disappointed.
So, you gonna end it here then? No, there's some more interesting things about Ernie that a load of people don't know about. Like what? Heck, some of the story plots from Ernie would later reappear in Thomas, but not in a
I'll steal it!
sort of way, but more of how they have a similar type of context to their stories, with their beginnings and ends. But the only difference is, their version of it doesn't have the piss yellow card. So that's pretty much neat if you think about it. So bottom line, it would be nice if the series did get some attention, or at least given a proper chance again. Just like how Ivor's getting another chance thanks to the likeness of Nick Starwind, where he was mostly talking about the lost episodes associated with the series, which we'll, who knows, probably see someday now. So then, that's it from me, so thank you all for watching, like and subscribe, like for more. So on that bombshell, goodbye. So then, what do you all thought of the football last month? Because Italy won, England is crying, and that's about it. Now I'm pretty sure wondering, what's my favourite football team? Well, it's not Italy, and it's not England, and it's definitely not Man U, nor the Reds, nor the Blues. But it's none other than... the Pinks.
The Pinks?
Yeah, you got a problem with that? If you don't like that choice, you can bugger off. Go on. Video over. Go on, shoo. Wait another 3 or 4 months till the next video comes out.